What's up, everybody? Boys, we're back. Episode 5 coming at you live on this glorious Tuesday evening. How we doing, boys?
55, baby.
Seems
like yesterday we started this thing.
Well, it seems like yesterday because it was around this time we did start. Yeah, Blake Ferguson showing up on the pod with the boys, getting his bourbon in. What a time to be alive.
Do we have it? What was it? Do you know the date of our first one? That's probably something we should
June
know.
12th.
Thank you, Bobby. You would know. Oh, we're coming
Bobby
up.
never misses a beat, brother.
No, the guy is just...
Bobby's that clingy girlfriend who's like, it's our 1 month anniversary.
Hey,
I'm not clingy. You can go.
Bobby, as a fellow married man, it's a smart thing to remember those important dates. So well done.
Yeah.
I won't forget.
Well, boys, we got a pretty cool guest coming on, huh, Eric?
We do. We do. Today's guest actually is a South Florida born and bred, and also a Gator, which actually we don't get many of them on the pod. But Dereck Wingo spent 5 years at UF. He started off at St. Thomas Aquinas. Obviously, if you're from down here, you know them. They're a powerhouse. They just produce football players. Now he has an NFL rookie camp under his belt and his own podcast as well. So you guys want to get into it?
Let's do it.
I'm putting the helmet on as always.
The opportunity is right now.
Terrific defensive play. Intercepted. Off the block. On the move. Going deep. Speedways. He's got Hill. He's got Hill. The Dolphins have recaptured the lead.
Whew. Butterflies again. It's bring me back slowly. Every single time that intro comes on, bringing me back slowly all the way from January. What's up, everybody? Thank you for showing up to the Dive Bar. It is episode 55. As Eric stated before, we have an awesome guest today, Dereck Wingo, coming fresh off Dolphins rookie minicamp. How we doing, Dereck?
Good, yeah. Thank you guys so much for having me. I got to say, that intro video is pretty sick. Got me a little fired up.
It gets you going, man. They slowly bring you back in every single season, dude. Every single season. But we're happy to have you here.
No, I was gonna say the messed up part is half that roster is gone off the video. So we really need our guy to get back in the lab, brother.
Let's go.
Well, Ghost kind of mentioned it a little bit. Fresh off rookie minicamp with the Dolphins. Kind of talk us through your process, like after the draft, deciding on the Dolphins. Obviously, it's home. Might have been an easy decision, but how did that come about, and how was rookie minicamp for you?
Yeah, so Dolphins has always been like a program that I wanted to be around, obviously being home from South Florida. I'll tell you exactly kind of behind the scenes of how it happened was I was sitting there watching the Panthers game, and I get a phone call from my agent. He's telling me, he's like, hey, I got some bad news for you. And I'm like, oh, gosh, like, here we go. Like, what happened now? He's like, you still got your cleats in your car. You got to be at, rookie minicamp with the Dolphins tomorrow. It was actually the day before rookie minicamp. So that was pretty cool and exciting. And then he was like, the coaches are going to call you in 2 minutes. And I kind of stood up. They both kind of called me, the coaches. They were like, hey, here's all the details. You got to show up. So, yeah, that was a big moment for me to be able to know that I had the opportunity and then just showing up in the facility, right? I don't think I realized it in that moment, understanding like that's the dream, right? That's the dream that you're 5 years old and put the cleats on for the first time that you're wishing for and striving for. I don't think I really took it in at that moment, but I think definitely being there, looking around, seeing all the guys, being able to get after it, being in that blue or that turquoise and just being able to run around on that field is absolutely amazing kind of feeling.
That's awesome, man. And you kind of shine a light on something. It's like you always got to be ready in these situations. I know, obviously, you've been working out with Perform, getting it in daily, but you always just got to be ready. You just get a phone call and hey, you got to be in there tomorrow, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, that wasn't really bad news either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need some of that bad news.
You had to get off your couch, right? Is that the bad news?
Yeah, it's time to go to work.
Exactly.
Dude, but how was camp for you? I mean, I know you have different plans now, but just in general, like, how was the process? Was it fun? Did you get to meet any of the vets? Like,
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. I got to meet pretty much everybody. We walked in the building. We did everything that the guys from that got drafted the first round to all the way last UDFA guys. So the experience was absolutely amazing. You get thrown right into the fire, kind of like what they say. They give you the playbook. You got to learn it. You're in the meetings, everything with all the, position coaches, head coaches, and all the different meetings. And then you go directly to the field, right? Translating from the classroom to the field. It's full go. We're at team periods, 7-on-7, individual periods, special teams. I had the opportunity to stay after, to be able to go over some of the film with some of the coaches, do some extra work on special teams before the practice. So it was an amazing experience, being able to be out there and run around a little bit. And then I knew the Dolphins had a little bit of a roster thing going on where they were already going into rookie minicamp with 90 guys on the roster. So I knew that was going to be a little bit of a tit for tat, knowing that, hey, I either have to go take a spot or it's going to be, I'm going to have to leave rookie minicamp and wait for another call, whether or not someone gets injured or they cut another guy. So, but overall, I was thankful for the opportunity. I'm still kind of, it'd be amazing to be able to get a call and be able to kind of be back in there.
And it was a short week camp, but you were with the Dolphins. Were there any? I always like to ask, were there any vets that kind of reached out on the way, helped you out, showed some love along the way that really stood out to you?
Yeah, there was a couple guys. So they did their practice a little bit before us,
Sure.
but they'd still kind of be in the locker room. And a few vets actually did the practice with us. And the couple of things they were preaching to us was, hey, look, like when you're in the league, you get to realize quickly, this is a life. This is a lifestyle. This is a job. This is how you put the food, on your plate. This is how you feed your family. There's guys who come in here or mid-30s, right? And then you're coming here where you're 21, 22, 23, and you're trying to take a grown man's job. So you have to understand that. And at the same time, you have to have the mindset and show up every day like, nothing is given. You have to show up wanting to take it every single day. And it doesn't matter if you're drafted in the first round, doesn't matter if you're a tryout guy, UDFA, no matter what it is, you come in here with the right attitude, the right mindset, you can be able to get a job.
And one of the guys that you actually played with at UF was Jason Marshall Jr., right?
Yep.
Fans, we were like, we don't really know much about Jason Marshall Jr., right? Care to elaborate on him as a human, as a player, as a teammate? I would just like to hear everything you have to say.
Absolutely. So obviously when Jason, I've known him for a while now, being from South Florida and then going to the University of Florida, right? When you meet this guy, he's going to come off as someone who's quiet at first, right? But when you really get to know him, you realize he's a guy that's always constantly in his bag, always working, always in the classroom, in the books, in the playbook, a guy who does everything by the book and to the attention to detail. Right. So I was super psyched for him when I saw that he got the call from Miami, get to stay home, and then seeing him, right? I was out there with him on the first day of rookie minicamp. He had the only interception, right? He was out there, made a play. So that was super exciting. Coach McDaniels kind of let him break it down on the team at the end. But no, I'm super excited for Jason, the type of guy that he is. I go back to the attention to detail, doing things the right way, having the leadership, and someone who can lead by example is someone who's going to have a really bright career ahead of him.
So, I want to switch it up a little bit. I know you have a lot of knowledge about the NIL and how college works. Obviously, spending 5 years in it. Obviously, but I want to ask, nowadays it's rare to see a kid stay at school more than a year. It's like they're moving around, they're jumping around. It's like, dude, it's wild out there.
Yeah.
Why was it so important to stay at Florida 5 straight years? All 5 years, you never left. I'm sure you had options.
Because he's a dog.
Yeah. So I get this question a lot, actually. And I kind of put it like this. I looked at going to the University of Florida more of like a 40-year plan than a 4-year plan. I knew that at the end of the day, football is going to end at some point, whether or not you play 10 years in the league, 5 years in the league, 1 year in the league, or even go to the league, right? I knew that was a place that I could go to, be able to set my resume up, build the connections, be around a certain group of people that can make my life much easier, but also give me the opportunities for success in the future. My path wasn't very smooth at the University of Florida, right? 2 head coaches, I had 5 different strength coaches, 4 different position coaches, 4 different DCs. I was learning a different playbook with a different coach, trying to prove yourself each and every year. So it wasn't something that was the smoothest. But I never took it for granted. I don't regret the decision. I did have opportunities to transfer, but I decided to stay there just because of the culture, the standard the university has overall as a school, getting the education there. You can go, I travel all around the world. I did the 3 abroad trips with the University of Florida and Japan, Greece, and South Africa. And we ran into someone every single time that would say, "Go Gators." So being able to have that just all around the world and that alumni base is something that you'll never get rid of.
Being at the University of Florida for 5 years, being that vocal leader at a big time locker room in Florida, What's that transition like in that mindset for you? You know, going as like that vocal leader in the locker room to, again, showing up to your first rookie camp.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I was younger, I always said that you had to prove yourself before you were able to speak up. And now that I've gotten a little bit older, I don't think that's always the truth. I think if you're around guys with all the same type of mindset, right, is out there for the same goals, has the maturity level of a professional, they need to understand that you're all out here for the same thing, right? If you're preaching the right things and being a leader and doing things the right way, leading by example, it doesn't matter if you're the 18-year-old in the locker room that just showed up or you're the 21-year-old senior, right? It doesn't matter if you're the 22-year-old rookie or you're the 34-year-old vet. It doesn't matter. So I think that, you know, being around a bunch of guys with a maturity level and understands that we're here to do a job and get things done, at the end of the day, I mean, that's what you got to do.
Brother, just the way you speak, I'm like ready to run through a wall for you now. Like, I'm just ready. I'll put a helmet on. I haven't put it on in like 19 years, but I'm ready, coach. Like, and I know Bobby touched on the NIL, and like, we really want to know what the hell's going on with the NIL, bro. Everybody's bouncing around. They're leaving here. They're leaving there. I want more money. Like, I know you have like a really good understanding of it, and I'd like to just give you the floor and let you break it down real quick, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So NIL, I think, is an amazing thing, right? We've always said that athletes should be able to be paid for their play, you know, and that's something that I think is huge. For those people that haven't been able to have the opportunity to support their families, now they can, right? Your family's up for the weekend. They make that long travel. You can take them out to dinner after, or you can pay for a family member's flight to come to a game where they've never had the opportunity to do that. So I think that's huge on that aspect. But just being able to also be able to market yourself, being in front of all these different brands and get to show more of your personality rather than just who you are on the field. I think NIL really brings that out. I do have that same perspective as you guys do, to where it's, you know, now guys are leaving schools because I want to get paid here or I want to get paid there. And, you know, when you look at it as a college coach, like the first thing you always look at is like, coach, I want to get on the field. Coach, I want to play. Like, when am I going to get playing time? Now, the first question you get nowadays is, how much are you going to pay me? And, you know, that makes you, you know, what's your love for the game? Do you really love, you know, going out there on the gridiron and run around for 70 snaps and running to hit people? Or are you just out here for the money? So I think it's definitely changed. Although there's still athletes out there that, you know, really do love the game. But I do think there's athletes out there now that, you know, I think are also
chasing the bag a little bit,
money, which I think can be a good thing and a bad thing. You know, I talked about it, you know, last year, actually, when I was on the Feinbaum show, I spoke about it. It's about team chemistry, right? You have to understand that you're there to do a job, regardless if you're getting paid, you're not getting paid. At the end of the day, you want to win a national championship. That's what you're there for. You want to get a degree, and you need to understand that. If you have your mindset on other things, that's just going to hinder your team and bring other guys down.
One of the coolest things we get to talk to people about on here is like people that used to be this position, now they're this position, how they ended up. Like Saran Neal said, you know, they try to make it, they turn him into from a receiver to a cornerback. And at first he was like, what the hell? Like, I want the ball in my hand. And now he's got a 10-year career behind him. It's like, man, maybe that guy really was looking out for me. Well, you as a quarterback and you switched permanently to defense your senior year, correct?
Yep. Well, my junior year, actually. My
junior year. Okay. Well, you end up getting 18 sacks, end up being 2019 Gatorade Florida Player of the Year. Talk about that transition and what it meant for you and how it ended up, you know, catapulting you into your career.
Yeah, so I basically played linebacker and quarterback a little bit my whole life. Going into St. Thomas, I primarily came in as a quarterback, right? I had the opportunity to play a little bit of JV my freshman year, and then sophomore year, I think it was about week 5. That's when I got my first start my sophomore year. We ended up kind of going to the state semifinals versus Venice as a quarterback. I mean, I was thrown to a guy like Elijah Moore, you know, every down. I was just
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. But, you know, I knew that in my head, I always had this anger and this physicality where I wanted to hit somebody. And I always mess around at practice, like, let me play defense. We're playing big, no wingo. And they finally let me do it one day at practice. St. Thomas, I got a pick 6. And I made a deal with actually one of the coaches. They're like, oh, if we win states, you'll be able to play defense. We lost in state semis. But going into my junior year, finally, I was like, hey, look, you know, I think, you know, I want to play defense. And it doesn't hurt when you're at linebackers coach is Jason Taylor. So that didn't hurt either. So that was a pretty easy decision for me. I wanted to play on the defensive ball. So to have the opportunity to be coached on the defensive side by guys like Jason Taylor, Twan Russell, Sam Madison, I mean, it was unbelievable. So,
bro, the coaching staff is ridiculous.
That's insane, man. That's a high school. That's crazy, bro.
That's a perfect segue, though. Tell us a little bit about playing for Jason Taylor. Like, Is that intimidating? Is that just awesome? Like, how is he as a coach?
Yeah, so it's pretty cool because, I have a good relationship with him off the field. And, he's a personable guy, right? He'll get to know you. He'll, get a good friends with your family, make sure everything's okay, always checking on you mentally. And then you get on the field and he's right going at you and he's snapping on you. And you're like, oh, coach, you were just so nice to me 5 minutes ago in the hallway. What's up? So, yeah. But no, he's an unbelievable coach. When you have somebody, who wasn't always the biggest guy, right? Coming from Akron, he wasn't the highest caliber athlete, right? He didn't have all the accolades and everything going for him. And he was able to make a name for himself. Going to the Jets first year and then going over to Miami and now he's in the Hall of Fame. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. He went from the lowest pedestal to the highest pedestal. He's seen it all. He's been through it all. So he has the mindset of understanding that, you got to work hard. You got to do things the right way, have the attention to detail. He preaches all the right things. He knows the technique. He knows what you need to know in the classroom. So being able to be around him and be a sponge and soak it all in, it's just an opportunity that I wish that everybody could have.
And I feel like it's something when you respect a guy like that in the locker room, a coach, like you're on your shit like all the time, bro. Like you want coach to be like, oh, good job. Like it don't matter. I could be picking up fucking bags after practice. Like, hey, good work. Hey, thanks, coach.
I'm doing a really good job over here.
Oh, man,
also the trust that goes into that. Cause like, dude, I know like in high school, like if you didn't really get along with a coach, like you're like, I guess. But like when you really respect the coach and you know that he knows the deal, like you'll trust anything he says. He could be like, when the ball snap, run backwards. You're like, wait, I'm alive. Like what? But you'll run backward. Like it don't matter. Like, so that's gotta be awesome.
Yeah, no, it was unbelievable. It was amazing. All those coaches, especially having a guy like, Roger Harriet now, that's the head coach. You have Twan Russell, who's the AD
awesome
now. George Smith, right? One of the most legendary coaches of all of high school football. I think now they're on 6 straight state titles, going for a 7th. I mean, that school all around is just prestigious.
And JT's with UM now.
Yep.
And I could see him as a head coach, bro. I don't know if he has aspirations for that, but I mean, could you see him as an HC one day in college?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, when he went to UM, the thought did cross my mind. I won't lie, the thought did cross my mind. But I mean, I definitely think the Dolphins coaches gotta be trying for him, right? Gotta be trying for him to get him back in the building and get around the guys. But he has the attention to detail. He has the, want to and the aggressiveness to go out there every day and work, to teach guys, to make sure guys are all around, ready to go whether or not it's Saturdays, it's Sundays, it's Friday nights in high school. He knows what it takes. So I think definitely he has the capability of being a head coach or even a big time DC next or whatever it might be.
And speaking of coaches, did you get a chance to work with Coach Weaver at all?
I did.
What was your first impression of him? Because we've heard a few things about him. And
honestly, I liked all the coaches that were really there. Yeah. I've heard some things about NFL teams, how all 32 teams have a different way that they run their program, right? So when I was in their facilities, I loved, especially Coach Weaver, being around those guys because at the end of the day, it's a business, right? They're trying to put food on their tables too, and you have to understand that. So I think they did a really good job of just being very meticulous in what you do, doing things the right way, and then just being able to be coachable. I think that was out of the whole weekend. I think that was the biggest thing, was being able to be coachable. Can you go out there, make a full speed mistake, come in the meeting room, be able to understand what you did wrong, correct it, and then go back on the field and then do it the right way?
And, you have so much going on at a camp like that, especially coming in, like you said, you got the call the day before. You're like, I got to be there in the morning tomorrow. And we hear a lot about like the mental adjustments that players make on the offensive side of the ball, going from college to the pros. But what's it like going from the defensive side, especially going from, like you say, you get that call, you're like, I got to be at a camp tomorrow. I know you don't get really too much into like the X's and O's and whatnot, but what's that mental adjustment like?
Yeah, so I think I have a little bit of a unique experience having so many coaches, having different DCs, right? I had Todd Grantham, I had Austin Armstrong, I had Ron Roberts, I had a couple other guys. And it was just, I got to, at first you can look at it as almost a hindrance, right? You're learning a different playbook. But as I got older, I looked at it as almost just adding to my toolbox. Having so many position coaches that were teaching me different techniques and more focused on this than they were focused on that. So I kind of looked at it as where I can look at this as a bad thing, or I can look at it as where, hey, look, he taught me this. How can I put it together to make myself the best athlete that I can be? And I think that kind of benefited me, especially with day one when I walked in there, where it was like, hey, look, this is how they run this. Okay, I remember this from Grantham. Armstrong did it this way. How can I kind of make this, fit perfectly in my head? And I think there was actually a time in a meeting room during the camp where something had happened, and I was just speaking to myself, and I said it a little too loud. I started saying the verbiage that, we were saying with one of the coaches. Coach looked at me, Matty O looked at me and goes, "What are you talking about?" I was like, oh crap. Like it was just such a, force of habit kind of saying those things out loud, because I've had so many different playbooks and things I've had to learn. But definitely just, being able to put it all together. I mean, you were there from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., right? Learning the playbook. You get back to the hotel, you're right back in the books I'm a guy who's got to write things down. So I'm writing it down over and over and over, making little flashcards for myself. And I think, when you're able to do that and understand it well, you can go out there and be successful in the field.
That's awesome, man.
Dude, real quick, I want to give a shout out to Fins in the house. He was posted up on the timeline today with his hat he bought from us. Appreciate everybody for all the love, man. We sell those hats pretty quick. We don't sell them often, but when we do a new batch, they go quick. And we appreciate all the love y'all show, man. Everybody's always posting something. Love my hat. Thanks for the hat. So appreciate all y'all. Y'all make it easy to sell them.
And
things,
Dereck
man.
is next. Dereck's
getting his, man.
Yeah. He made sure he's like, we ain't going live, and I'm not getting y'all Jason Marshall unless y'all get me a hat. So let's just handle that right now.
There it is. Let's go.
Dude, speaking of Jason Marshall, I kind of want to go back to your time in Gainesville, right? Like, I feel like we never asked this, and it's something that's always on my mind. How hard was it to balance, like, the partying? Because Gainesville's fun, from what I hear. How hard was it, like, as an 18, 19, 20-year-old to not want to party a little bit?
Yeah, so it's pretty fun up there. So I do got to say, as you've seen, Coach Brandon Spikes, right? He's now on the staff, and he always kind of talked about how back in the day,
absolute
7, 08, they used to call it Gaines Vegas, because those guys used to just go crazy. But I mean, man, it was just like every time you're walking around somewhere, there's tailgates and there's parties, and you're just trying to keep your head down and keep walking. And no, it's an amazing school overall. The fan base is just insane. Like I was talking about how you see it all over the world. Imagine how it is in Gainesville. I wish that I could have been there for the national championship for basketball a few months ago, because I saw some videos that were just insane. So, I mean, I can only imagine this year when they have a chance to go to the college playoffs, and, I'm super excited to watch them be able to go do that.
Dude, I watched I think it was your Mason Taylor episode, but I was watching it, and you were like, man, it just so happens when I leave, Florida's on top of the world, everything. And it was like, man, so for you to say that, like, you really are missing Florida already.
It was like a month. I think it was a month or 2 months right after I left basketball one. I was just like, oh, my.
Bro's naming gymnastics, swimming, volleyball.
All of them.
It's so crazy, man.
Speaking of your podcast, go ahead,
Bobby. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, while we're on the topic, speaking of your podcast, you have a podcast, Wingin It with Wingo. How did that kind of come about? What's kind of your thought behind that? What's your plans with that?
Yeah, so basically, I did an internship with Chris Doring, right? He was one of the anchors on SEC Network, right? I got to go up there for the first round of the draft when we covered, and actually not this past year, the year before that. A cool thing was I called Ricky Pearsall and Graham Mertz when they were there. Graham was there supporting them, and Ricky and Graham were just like, hey, look, my agent just said, like, there's a chance I might be able to squeeze in. And I look at the guys around the studio. I was like, do I say something? Do I not say something? And he ended up going first round. So that was pretty cool to be there for that experience. And I've always kind of wanted to be a broadcaster. Everyone always said that, I could be good on TV, very good at talking. I love to be around sports, talk about sports. It's something some of you've done your entire life, right? So Florida Victorious approached me and was like, hey, would you be interested in doing something like a podcast, having, the Gators athletes on there, asking them questions, keep it really simple and then just fun and just kind of take it wherever you wanted to go. And, I was more than happy to do it. They allowed me to do it at Spurrier's, and then just kind of pick my guests throughout the week and just let it flow. So I was able to write kind of all the scripts, which questions I wanted to ask. I just hit up the guys, be like, hey, are you free this time next week? They'd be like, sure. I'd be like, I'll buy you lunch or something if you come on the podcast. And so, yeah, I loved enjoying it. super cool conversations, super laid back, and people loved hearing or seeing a different perspective of athletes and kind of hearing their background story, why they chose University of Florida, what was going through George Gumb's mind when he flag planted at Florida State. Like, things like that are cool to hear from athletes. So I started doing it a little bit more once I was in training for pre-draft. I did Mason Taylor, Xavier Restrepo. I did some of the different guys. I did Coach Harry. I was trying to get Jason Taylor on too, maybe sometime soon. So I have a little bit of a pause on it right now, but I'm hoping to kind of get that continued back up. And then hopefully later on in my career, I'll be able to be on College Game Day or something like that.
I could see it for
that
sure,
would be
man.
sick.
I could see it for sure.
Man.
You're a great speaker, man. You remind me of just the way that you carry yourself and present yourself, and the way that you break things down and talk about them is Cam Wolf. We had him on, and it's like you guys are like spitting images of each other, the way that you speak, and it's like you're built for broadcast, man. It's awesome.
Speaking of,
you're way more well spoken than Bobby,
or me.
Anyways,
buy you Bob down there.
Anyways, on the face of this podcast, let me get that clear.
Here we go.
You have Billy Napier on. It's a funny thing. I live in Lafayette, Louisiana, and Billy was the coach at UL right across the street here. And we went to church together every Sunday. We waited in line to pick up our kids after church together. And it's like, I really didn't think much of it because like it was every Sunday I seen Billy Napier, right? And next thing you know, Billy Napier going to Florida. It was like, what the hell? And I took it for granted because it was like, dude, I'll sit there next to Billy Napier and they're like, UL was awesome. He's like, they won this like the Sun Belt like every year he was here. And they Robert Hunt, they pumped out players. And it was just like, it's cool though, because like small town thing, but like it's a real football thing. Like the pastor was Chris Reese. The assistant pastor was Chris Reese. That's the guy that recovered the surprise onside for New Orleans Saints. Mm-hmm. He was the pastor, and you're sitting next to Billy Napier, and y'all picking up your kids together. So that was pretty cool while it lasted.
Yeah, Billy's like a pretty cool dude, unique kind of guy. I was excited to have him, on the show. I was trying to get it all season long. I think a lot of times he's misunderstood. He's a guy who really cares about his family, really cares about the University of Florida. And sometimes you got to be realistic. When you're a head coach, no matter what goes on, it's going to get blamed on you. And that's like taking the job as a head coach is no different than, being a CEO. You might have 1,000 employees. If somebody gets a bad rep or somebody does something wrong, it's going to come back to you. So I'm excited to be able to see him this year turn things around. The momentum that he has right now with, a ton of guys that are great down in Gainesville. The young guys, DJ obviously stepping up this year. They got Dallas Wilson, Trey Wilson. The receiving core is out of the mind. So I'm excited to be able to see those guys. The defense is going to be nasty once again. On the D line, you got Caleb Banks, Tyreek Sapp, guys who are just animals and headhunters. So I'm definitely excited to be able to see them. And I wouldn't be too surprised if you see Coach Napier get fired up on the sidelines a couple games this year. I know people get excited when they see those types of things. So I get fired up when I see it too.
And you were pretty close with Sapp, right?
I was, yeah. He went to St. Thomas as well.
Mm-hmm. And I remember, I think I read an article where you kind of took him under your wing as a leader.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Sapp's a guy who was always a leader, even at St. Thomas. He's a guy who's very emotional. If you talk to anybody in the locker room, he's a guy who before the game, he's crying. He's got tears coming out of his eyes. He's preaching right before the game. I think we always had these moments of silence where it's like 4 minutes where you come in the locker room after pregame and it's right before the coaches come up and you get those 4 minutes where everyone's just quiet and you're just letting all the emotions come in and you're hearing the strength coaches yelling in the background and you hear Sapp is just, the tears are coming out. He's just getting angry. He's getting fired up. And, that makes you just want to run through a brick wall right there, knowing so much how much he cares about the game of football. He's got a daughter who just turned 3, someone who goes out there every single snap and just, wants to run through somebody's face because, that's how he is. And, I give all the respect to him and I'm excited to be able to watch him grow as, these next couple of years.
Damn, that's so dope, bro. It's cool because like you being part of something bigger than you get to follow all these guys that are under you. You get to follow these guys that were before you and you grow this bond with them. And that's a lifetime bond, bro. Absolutely. It's even, it doesn't matter what level you played at. It doesn't matter what sport it is. It's it's a brotherhood, it's a fraternity, it's something special. That's to me, that's the most special part about football.
Yep, and we have those group chats from every single year. From the 22 season, 23 season, 24 season, we still talk to them. When I had to put them on mute because they're just going off all day long of guys talking, and even the guys that have transferred from other schools. We're still sending each other stuff, or on Saturdays when guys are watching each other's games, like they're sending stuff back. Oh, did you like this or that?
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool connection. It's a bond that will never be broken. And when you get older in life, like I always said, and my dad kind of always taught me, was never burn a bridge. And I think that's something that's good about college football, because you make these connections and you never know when someone might be your CEO later on in life, or someone you're going to need a job from, or somebody you never know. And that goes with even coaches in college football, right? You see these coaches nowadays leaving just like the players are. So you have to be very careful with who you make connections with, and always make sure that they're positive.
Sheesh. It's like, so it's sometimes we get guys on here and they love football, but like they can't really talk about how they love football. And the way you talk about football makes me miss football. Like I don't know how else to really say it. Like, because those are special moments that you'll never get back.
Mm-hmm.
Those locker room moments, that 4 moments of silence, like they're fucking Sapp in the corner, just fucking putting his helmet inside of his face. Like, bro, those, like, I remember those moments, and I was a little jit. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, it's just cool to hear. It's cool to hear that it doesn't matter what level you play at. Like, the guys are the same. The locker rooms are all the same.
Absolutely.
It's a special moment. Speaking of special moments, I don't know if you're allowed to say it yet, but you have a special job that you're taking on. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, I'll kind of get into it. So obviously, I've always talked about wanting to do the broadcasting, and then coaching was another thing that I was interested in, right? But being coaching, starting out as a GA, kind of working your way up, and then just you never know where you're going to be. You might have to move. The head coach gets fired. So the next thing that was always brought to my attention was being a sports agent, right? So a bunch of different agencies, I was going back and forth with, kind of all over the country. And I decided to choose the agency that I thought not only just fitted me the best, but kind of represented how I am, a family, right? People that have been around the game since day one. And that's Rosenhaus Sports, being around guys with, Drew Rosenhaus, Robert Bailey, Jason, all those type of guys. They have a really tight family, and they do things the right way. So I'm super excited to be able to be a part of that family and go out there and get those guys like Sapp and those guys at the University of Florida. So, I mean, it's amazing knowing the type of history that, Drew has been around and been a part of. Obviously, it started right down here in South Florida with the Miami Dolphins. So just being a part of something great, knowing that I have room for growth, and I can still be able to stay around football after football. That was the biggest thing. I knew that I always loved sports. I knew I always wanted to be, a mentor of some kind, being able to support the younger athletes, kind of what can I tell myself at 18 now that I'm 23 to be able to make sure that I'm a better person than I was then than I am now. And I feel like I could definitely do that for guys now. So I'm excited to be able to have that opportunity and pour that off to younger athletes, whether or not it's high school, college, NFL, and just kind of be a support system for them.
And you're in the Mecca. You're in the Mecca. You're in the melting pot. You went to the right high school. You went to the right college. Like, you're doing it right, brother. And you're a good person. And I feel like being a good human first takes you way further in life than anything else.
Absolutely.
Straight up.
Yeah, I think that's a great example. Is you touched on it a few different times. You're talking about networking, and you're like, I was planning not for the next 4 years. I was planning for the next 40 years, never burning bridges. And it's like, I'm sure Drew saw that in you and was like, hey, man, this guy, like, he's making all these connections, and he could be a huge asset to this group. And it's just like you just exemplify, and it's walking the walk, and it's really cool seeing like those two things come together. It's that's a job where networking and not burning bridges is paramount, and it's probably one of the best agencies out there right now.
Yeah, definitely. I always tell athletes now is the biggest thing that you have to realize is when the ball stops, the phone calls will also stop. What I mean by that basically is when that kind of helmet comes off and you're not playing anymore, the favors that you could have asked for when you were on the field and you had the helmet on, they're not going to be there. That same guy that was blowing up your phone, hey, let me take you out to dinner, or let me do this, or let me know if you ever need anything. They don't really mean that. So I think like real talk, like you got to realize that. So being able to build those relationships, build those connections, making sure that, you have a right path. And I think Florida does an amazing job with it. They have people like Savannah Bailey who runs the Gator Made program. But for guys to realize and understand that, making connections is probably the biggest thing that you can do while you're in college. Have fun, enjoy yourself, play the game that you loved your entire life since you were 5 years old when you first put the helmet on. But also, I always took the phone calls, right? If you called my phone, I'd answer. If you texted me, I'd answer. If you DM me, I'd answer. Because later on in life, you do never know. And just because someone tells me or tells you, hey, call me if you ever need anything. When it's 3 a.m. and you're in an issue and actually make that phone call, there's very few people that would actually pick up the phone and do it for you. Mm-hmm. And you definitely realize that once you get older, your circle starts to get a little bit smaller. And, when you're not on top of the world anymore, you have to realize there's few people that still are in your circle that you call them and check up on them. You call them and make sure that you're there from the same way. So I think that's something that I was able to learn at an early age. And now that I can only benefit you on as you go on throughout life.
Did you ever think about doing any or have you been asked to do any mentoring for, kids coming into college, like new athletes, taking on, stepping into a D1, weight room, stepping into a D1 locker room, never been on a stage that big before in their life? Yeah.
So I've been asked to do a few public speaking events. And I'm trying to actually figure out a way that I can do it myself where I can, whether or not it's me working with Rosenhaus and them, where I can go to these high schools and kind of sit down and talk and kind of give my whole spiel, my whole story. And then there's also open up for questions. I did that a few times when I did an internship over at NASA in Cape Canaveral, where I had the opportunity to go to a high school and speak to them and talk a little bit about, what it meant for me as an athlete, why I was interning with NASA, why as an athlete playing in college football, going to try and interview with people at NASA. You don't see things like that. And I approached these people and I was like, hey, look, you have to understand that football doesn't always last your whole life. And that goes back to making the connections and doing things like that. And it was cool to see the reactions from people like this. So it's definitely something that, I want to look forward to being able to do, to be able to kind of preach that message to other athletes of all ages, pretty much.
I mean, yeah, it's it's an absolute bar playing for the next 40, not the next 4, that's no, really, you don't really hear that, we were talking, it kind of fits into our conversation full circle. We're talking about NIL deals. Are you here for the money? Are you here for football? And it's well, I'm here for the next plan of my life for the next 40 years. That's what I'm here for. That's it's not a perspective that really gets put out there a lot, especially in today's day and age.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing now is how can these 18-year-olds get ahead of it, right? Mm-hmm. When you're making all this money, you got to learn how to pay your taxes, right? You have to get an account. You got to get a CPA. You got to, I was fortunate enough to be able to pay my Roth IRA for the 3 years that I was there with NIL in full. Who does that? You have to understand that being able to do small things like that can set yourself up so much in the future, and you have to take advantage of those things. So, I mean, I'm hoping that all athletes can do it. I'm hoping that I can pass that message on to others. And I'm hoping that someone can definitely, take the step and understand that, these are their lives, and you need to take advantage of the small opportunities that you have, because there's so many athletes now that enter the transfer portal and you never actually make it to another school. So, and there's so many athletes that go into the draft and never actually get drafted or picked up by a team. So you got to have that resume built up. You got to have something built up in those connections to be able to know that, life isn't always going to be a straight iron path. It's going to go up, down, sideways, all over the place. And you got to be able to understand and have the right mindset and do things the right way, treat people the right way. And when you get knocked down, just get back up.
Not to put you on the spot. This has got nothing to do with your current.
Listen, Bobby's been gripping.
I knew it was coming.
10 minutes.
No. This is not. No. This ain't about the private chat. We're just talking to you. Adam Schefter just tweeted, and this might make the Jonnu situation make more sense. Donald Parham Jr. suffered a torn Achilles today. He's out for the season at tight end for the Steelers. We also just found out 3 hours ago the Steelers are back in the mix trying to get Jonnu again. That's a Dolphin. I'm just saying that as a Dolphins fan for our listeners.
Group chat.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Check the group chat.
I really wasn't trying. I'm not trying to hook you in or nothing. I'm just saying that for the listeners. That gives a little clarity of why they might be so adamant to revisit that.
Yeah, these things are fluid, man.
But that's neither here nor there. We can.
I don't like that. I don't like that grin over there. You checked your phone. You can't be doing that.
What do you know? No, I'm just
All
kidding.
right, so I feel like this is the perfect time to move into our lifestyle segment.
Great stat. We love segues at the dive bar.
Segways are the
And
best.
so every episode we have like a fun topic we bring up and we just bullshit about it a little bit. Today I want to talk fast food, boys.
All right.
I want to talk fast food. I want the Mount Rushmore of fast food chains. I'm talking it has to be a drive-through. And we might have to bring Eric up for this because he's very passionate about this. He's very passionate about this. I mean, I gotta lead us off. No drunken night is better without Taco Bell. Like you gotta get like it's. I don't care. It could be 2, 3 in the morning. It could take you 3 hours for the Uber Eats to get to the crib, but Taco Bell is on the way. I'm gonna lead it off because I'm very passionate about Taco Bell.
I'll let Wingo go next. He's a guest.
Well, I'll take the obvious. It's got to be Chick-fil-A. That's just like your go-to. I feel like that's your go-to. Really, realistically, you always want it on a Sunday. You can't have it. In high school, one time I actually would go get Chick-fil-A on Saturday and keep a chicken sandwich for me to have Sunday morning.
There you go.
No lie. So I swear to God.
Oh my God.
You're always, you see, man, always forward thinking. Like it's crazy. Like you bring it from like such a high level all the way down to like, all right, Chick-fil-A is closed on Sundays. I got to have a backup in the fridge when they're closed on Sundays. That's awesome, man. It's like you're really walking the walk. But I think I don't eat a ton of fast food, but dude, lately, like I'll be driving home like 11, 12 o'clock at night after work, and I got to stop and
Weird flex, but okay.
I got to stop and get a McFlurry, dude. I gotta get a McFlurry, man.
And it's always broken. I don't know where you live, bro.
No, that's
down in South Florida, the McFlurry machine is always broken.
That shit's never been broken where I live, man. And I hit that M&M McFlurry, and man, they've been packing them up lately with M&Ms. Like I think you remember like the mini tube of M&Ms. I think they're pouring like a full one in these days. And usually things are getting smaller, things are getting less and less. I feel like they're packing it in. But that's my advice right now. Is
I'm happy for you.
Dude, I've probably gotten like 7 McFlurries in the last 2 weeks. Swear to God.
And that's a big deal because Ghost is like a health freak.
Well, okay. The reason why, Bobby, is because I'm in a calorie deficit some days, and I don't get to eat sometimes while I'm on the shift. And I can go down a whole road on that. But
hey, McDonald's to me that was the bulletproof answer. McDonald's, like no one had a childhood without McDonald's involved. There was a high C. There was always a McDonald's, but since y'all took all those, I gotta go Raising Cane's, especially being in Louisiana right now. Raising Cane's, it's like Chick-fil-A. It's just always fast. You get the same thing every time. They never mess up your order. Raising Cane's, extra sauce.
I had
honorable
it for the first
mention
time.
because Eric is irate in the background, like irate. He's
so
mad nobody picked Wendy's. Like,
yeah.
And just so you know, Derek, he went to Cooper City. So you know all the kids that went to Cooper City, they love their Wendy's because it was right next to the high school.
St. Thomas has one that's right next to us too.
Listen, Wendy's is just not up there, and that's okay. Like, listen, you're not on the mountain, but you can climb that mountain one day, but you're never gonna get there, brother. And I'm so sorry about that. And I'm so happy we didn't bring him up.
I think they got a quality burger, but I'll tell you a funny story about Wendy's. I knew a kid like in high school or right out of high school that went to Wendy's to work, and he was like, "Man, do you know why the patties are square?" I was like, "No," and I thought it was just a joke. He said, "No, I'm serious. Like I was just doing my training and stuff. They told us this in the training." He was like, "Our patties are square, unlike everybody else, because we don't cut corners on quality."
Wow, what a flex!
Dude, I was like, "Dude, that's a good one."
Cut corners on quality, bro. That's awesome.
They don't have the customer service Chick-fil-A does, though. It's a pleasure. I've never they're so nice. It's almost uncomfortable how nice they are.
Yeah, am I supposed to tip you or what happens next? Like,
it's my pleasure to serve
funny.
you.
The other day, one of the dudes I drove through the drive-through. My wife's pregnant, so she's on Chick-fil-A duty, like heavy right now. And I drive through, and the guy made a joke. He's like, "Oh yeah, just $20 tip." And I was like, "What are we at, Starbucks?" Because Starbucks is the worst now, bro. They'll put that tip thing right in your face, like while you're running your car. They'll make sure you hit at least $1, $2, $3 real quick. My brother, if you don't get this shit out of my face, bro, not happening. No, I'm a good tipper.
Yeah, they always come
I'm
up to
just
your
keeping
window and it's like, it was my pleasure to serve you today. It's like, damn, like, what am I about to get? Like, what am I about to get from this window, bro?
I tell y'all, I was disappointed, and I hate to do this because I really thought they had a flawless track record. We went to Chick-fil-A last weekend, left my son's Happy Meal out of the bag. I had to go back.
Oh.
Now they fixed it, no problem. They didn't even ask for my receipt. They didn't question it. But I've never known Chick-fil-A to make a mistake.
No, I don't think I've ever gotten a mistaken order. Not once.
And that's our fast food talk. That was fun.
That was perfect, man. Yeah. I mean, what was it? What was the the last
Oh
live
no, Derek! I think Derek will be a good candidate for this. So we had Calvin our Munson, right? And we were asking him, we were like, bro, like we one of our episodes we had like this whole talk about sleepovers back in the day, like middle school, elementary school sleepovers. Like, what was the one thing you guys like? I got to be honest, brother. I didn't like sleepovers, man. Like, I like being in my house.
That was funny, dude.
And we're like, man, you're ruining it right now. Just pretend for me, please.
Yeah, just play along. I'm actually going golfing with him tomorrow morning at like 7 a.m.
Dude, he's so awesome,
Let's
man. I wasn't
go.
able to come on that night, but he was great, bro.
Dude, he was hysterical. Like, total bros, bro. Like, I would love that's gonna be an awesome golf trip.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have fun.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna have fun.
They
That'd be
train at
wild.
Knicks all the time together, bro.
He's
Yep.
the man, dude. He's awesome.
But
He's
what
like
do you
one-
bring into the sleepover? Like, what was the number one thing? Like you were legit 10, 12, 13
I feel
years
like the number
old.
one thing you always brought over was snacks.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
what was that snack for you?
Like I was a big fan of the Gushers. I love.
Ooh, nobody said Gushers. See?
So it was
That's a good
like
one.
if I came to the house with Gushers and your mom didn't have them in the pantry, I was that dude. Like I had all power of
Slinging.
the house. No matter where I was, I owned the house. If I walked in, I had snacks that the house didn't already have.
Bro, I don't know why like Gushers just brought back to me like Dunkaroos, bro.
Slinging gushers, dude. That's awesome.
I don't know about y'all, but growing up, like I went to other people's house to experience stuff. So like I remember I had a friend, shout out Josh Burford if you're watching, he watches a lot. Dude, I used to go over to his house. They always had the Yoo-hoos. They always had the Yoo-hoos. It was like they never didn't have Yoo-hoos. It was like, man, this is awesome. This is incredible. I couldn't fathom it. It was just so like it's not a big deal, but to me, it was like, man, this is incredible.
I was putting him in his pockets, leaving the house.
Bro, my house was water or orange juice. Deal with it. That was it.
Dude, my mom was great. You know, at the sleepovers, she'd have pancakes and bacon ready every single morning, man. Like for everybody. You'd smell it waking up. But
Yeah.
the
My
snack,
parents like the party. That was never happening. Like, and it was always like a football sleepover, right? Like when you were a little like youth football, so like it was Saturday games. So Friday nights, everybody would sleep over each other's houses. And when you were young, you had games at like 9:30 in the morning or 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And we'd always be like, "Oh, we're good." We wouldn't go to bed till like 6 in the morning. We red in the eye, and my parents would be out. They partied. My parents got down. So they would have people over the house and they weren't paying attention to us. We'd be up till 3, 4 in the morning. So nobody was allowed to sleep over at my house. It was always what was his name? Brett Durfee's house. That was the safe house. Like we knew we were going to bed by midnight at least.
Yeah, my house got banned too in high school.
got banned.
Well, it kind of find out. Look, here's my parents' logic was: look, you're gonna be out drinking, you might as well do it here where I can watch you. So my parents would let the kids drink. We all been there. Well, somebody's always sloppy. Somebody goes home drunk, has to leave early, tries to leave the sleepover. It's like, yo, whoa, they're letting us drink, but you got to stay. Like, there's always one guy, it's always a big offensive lineman that's like, nah, I got to go to the house. I got to take a shit. It's something like that, bro. It's just one. There's always a sloppy one. And that happened or whatever. I remember they had a big meeting at the football field, like at the field house. It was like, this happened. Like, it was a big deal, man. I felt kind of bad, but, there's always
Look
that
at
one.
us now, Bobby.
Yeah. Winging it with Wingo.
Hey, speaking of, man, thank you so much for coming on tonight, bro. It was a blast having you. As Karen in the chat said, very eloquent speaker. She's a big fan of you. You might have Karen in your DMs now. Karen's a good lady. It's Aunt Karen, bro. Aunt Karen's the best.
Karen's awesome, dude.
I appreciate you guys for taking this time and allowing us to chop it up a little bit.
Yeah, Derek, thank you so
Well,
much
that's
for coming
fair,
on.
man.
And it's like wherever you end up, man, it's like you got us in your corner. It's you know, you got so much going for you, and it's really evident that you walk the walk, whether it's, you know, setting yourself up for 40 years of college, or you're saving that Chick-fil-A for Sunday. You're making sure that you're taking care of yourself and everybody around you, and that's important. And we see that, and we appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Appreciate you,
Make
man.
Sure, make sure y'all subscribe. Winging It with Wingo.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. I get you one of these dive bar glasses too now.
Come on. I'll put it in the cabinet.
Let's go.
I got you.
He's got a hat and a glass coming. Dive bar merch taking over.
I'm gonna be dodging perform for the next week.
All right, appreciate everybody for coming out. I guess we're gonna call it a night. Thank you for our guest, Dereck Wingo. Much success to you, however that goes with Rosenhaus or back in the league. You're with Rosenhaus, you could be getting called by the Dolphins anytime. You better keep those cleats in your car. We know about the Rosenhaus deal. So you might be a Dolphin here soon. So appreciate everybody for coming out. Like the video, subscribe if you're new. We'll see y'all when we see y'all.